This is going to be a touchy one. This is going to be a touchy one because we're talking about parents and dating. And I hear a lot of times, majority from women, I hear from men too. Me and my kids are a package deal. No, you're not. Stop saying that. Stop putting your kids in that position. So let's just deal with one little tidbit. Studies show that when you date somebody as a parent, no matter what you say to the child in some way looks at that person you're with in a parental manner, will interact with them in a parental manner, will get emotionally attached to them. And then if you break up with them, they will have to go through the emotional separation, detachment, and loss of the relationship. So when you bring people around your kids that you're dating, your kids date them and break up with them like you do. So am I saying, no, don't ever let people you date be around your kids? I'll use my mother as an example. My mother said, you don't get to meet men I'm dating until it's necessary for you to meet men I'm dating. And when I say meet, I'm not saying you don't see them or talk to them. They can knock on the door and then they can be, I'm here for your mother. I shut the door, go get mine. So-and-so is at the door. You know, we could have a couple words with them, but we didn't get to know them or interact with them. Matter of fact, in my young adult life, my prepubescent life to my young adult life, I only got to know two guys that my mother dated, and she was engaged to both of them. You see what I'm saying? So I got to know these gentlemen. I got to hang out with them. I got to talk to them, but only after there was a possibility of them being around a long time. Now, some people are like, well, you know, my kids got to like them. And you know what I'm saying? If they don't like my kids and my kids are like, listen, ho, dead that. Because if my mother only dated people that me and my brother liked, she would have been single her entire life until she was dead. Because if you weren't my father, though you might be likable, we did not like you. And my brother even once said, I don't care what my mother say. If you get married, you ain't my father, not doing what you say. And he liked to do. He didn't like the fact that he was with my mother. So understand, when you put that kind of weight, you are putting the weight of your romantic relationship on your children. And you're also putting the weight of your children on your romantic relationship. It's like, listen, I just have to be, if I'm in a relationship with a woman who has a child, I only have to agree to be in that relationship, to be a loving father, if that's what it comes down to love and cherish that child like my own. I don't have to agree to like them. I don't have to agree to get along, because let's put it for real. If getting along was a determination of parenting, there's a lot of parents who wouldn't even have their biological children, because your children don't like you and you don't like your children. But the standard should be love and care. So this is what it breaks down to. How do you decide when someone meets your children? When it's necessary. So in other words, you get with the person. You talk to them about your parenting. You talk about them about your child, how your lives were going to look. And if you trust that person, man or woman, with their answers, if your relationship develops to the point where you think, okay, we can be together, at that point, you slowly introduce the child to the partner. And you let them interact and you watch them interact and you start seeing how they interact as a family. And you meter that, because if it starts to go wrong, you might have to break it off. But what you don't do is say, if you date me, you got to date my child. Come meet my child. And you don't know them from Adam. Think about this. You tell your children not to talk to strangers, then you demand that strangers talk to your children. Because that person, until you really get to know them and the intricacies of their life, they're a stranger. But because you're dating them, now it's okay for a stranger to talk to your children and your children to talk to strangers. It is not. You have to develop a system where you can get to know a person, get an idea and concept of how they're going to be in the relationship, how they look at you as a parent with a child or children, and how they're going to interact. And based on the quality of your relationship and how far it moves, and the nature of how it moves, as far as whether it's just going to be physical, whether it's going to be something where you build them forever, or whether it's just right now. And then once you decide, no, this is going to be something long-term and wonderful, I'm going to stick in this. That's the point that you start introducing the person to the child. And you're like, but what if they don't like each other? Well, that's putting your needs and desires before the desires and needs of the children. If anybody takes an L in an emotional relationship, your children shouldn't take an emotional L for you. You should take an emotional L for your children. And if not, you really need to question who you are as a parent. I said this is going to be touchy. And that goes for men too. Do not bring strangers around your kids and demand that they get to know each other. Know the person. Have a system of interacting and finding out, truth and fact finding. And I don't mean in an accusatory way. I mean in a way that's healthy and growing. And then if it doesn't work out, you can agree to just be friends. But your children and you are not a package deal. Your children don't become part of the package until you decide whether you and he or you and her have the potential to be a package. And at that point, you start looking at how kids fit in. Or you can start looking at it before that. I'm not saying at that point you do, because you should be looking at it before, but it shouldn't be implemented until it is necessary. No one meets your kids until it's necessary. No more aunts and uncles on a regular basis. No more interchanging families where, how are they related to us? I don't know, but that's my uncle, that's my auntie. Stop that mess. You and your kids are not a package deal. You have to decide whether or not you and the other person have the potential to be a package, which should also be based on how they perceive parenting with a person who has children. And once you come into an agreement, then they get to meet your kids, not before. I'm just saying, think about it.